Hey, what's up guys, my name is the Cherno. Welcome back to the Game Engine series, specifically to this first episode of a new format. Feels good to be mixing this series up and introducing something new because, to be honest, as I mentioned in the video that I put up yesterday, which I'll have a link to up there, I was getting a little bit burnt out, I guess, with the series and just didn't really like the way that I was actually making the videos. So in practice, I think for you people watching, not too much is actually going to change. We're still going to be doing the same thing. I'm still obviously going to try and keep it as high quality as possible. The only difference is that this is now going to be more or less live. By live, I don't mean live streamed. I just mean that this is going to be like, the way I'm even recording this is actually the same way as my Patreon live stream setup. It's just going to be me working on Hazel. I am still going to edit these videos down a little bit, so if there's just stupid moments where I don't know what I'm doing and there's just gaps and stuff like that, I still am going to edit it a little bit, but it's just going to be I have not rehearsed this at all. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just going to be me working on Hazel and obviously trying to teach you as much as possible as I'm working on it, which to me is really exciting because I think that if I was in your shoes and I was watching someone make a game engine, this is probably the format that I would want. Now I've got my matcha here, which is basically a different type of green tea, because I've been trying to cut down on my caffeine intake, trying to cut down to 1 coffee a day from 2. So there we go. I've got that. That's just to show you how chill, how chill this all is. So what are we going to be doing today? I really want you guys to watch the video that I put up yesterday, which was about the whole kind of game engine series, but also the future of this, because this is going to be the first video in which we basically take strides towards our goal, which I have written on the whiteboard up there, which is our priority, which is a full 2D workflow on all platforms. What I mean by that is we want to be able to make 2D games in Hazel. We've picked 2D because I ran a poll a while ago, 51% voted for 2D, but even if you didn't, it's important to establish, I think, a 2D workflow first because it's easier. Meaning that you'll get it done faster, and especially since I don't have a team backing me, I will be able to just physically program a 2D workflow a lot faster than 3D, because 3D is something that is ever evolving. It's something that Unity and Unreal are still working on, whereas 2D is a lot more achievable, and it will give us basically the ability to use Hazel to create some kind of interactive game. It's just that it will likely be 2D. Now, that's what our priority is, to make Hazel into a standalone tool that we can open. We'll open the Hazel engine, and then we'll be able to basically set up a scene, put some sprites on the screen, make some entities, add some behaviors to them via a scripting language, add some components, and then export that into some kind of game that we can run standalone outside of the editor, as well as probably preview the game inside the editor in some kind of game view, much like Unity, something like that. And I haven't figured this out all the way, because even though Hazel Dev, which is available for patrons, even though that is a lot more advanced than this version of Hazel, and it is 3D, it doesn't have everything figured out. It's got an editor tool, but it still doesn't have everything figured out. So the strides that I want to take to make this stuff happen, and these videos, I'm not going to be too stressed on how long they are. I'm definitely going to keep them under an hour, and I'm going to aim for about half an hour to 40 minutes at a maximum, just because I don't want to dump hours of footage on you people often, because that's a little bit unwatchable, I think, and I'm sure a few of you would enjoy that, but I think the majority would much rather something a bit more condensed and something that they don't have to allocate hours every week or every day or whatever to watch. So that's why I'm still going to try and keep these as concise as possible, even though I'm blabbling on a lot. But the reason is that it's the first episode, and I want to just give a little bit of, I want to formulate a plan, because this isn't just me sharing this plan with you guys. It's also me formulating the plan for myself, because I don't know what I'm doing yet, and that's the whole point, to do everything on camera and in front of you. So what I want to do is, there are many things that we need to do to achieve that 2D workflow, as I've mentioned. The first thing is we need some kind of tool chain. We need a tool, an editor tool, that we can use to actually basically, if you think about it, set up the scene, position everything visually, because that's a lot easier to do than through code. Add a few entities, add components to them, add some scripts for behaviors, and then, use the UI to maybe set different textures on different meshes and all of that stuff. I mean, we have it's 2D, so it's not really meshes, but we still have obviously sprites. And by the way, when I say 2D, I think ultimately at the end of this, maybe we will be moving the 2D workflow to a 3D editor. So in other words, you'll still be able to possibly position things in 3D space, but maybe the camera will be locked to a 2D. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. Because I think that if I was making a 2D game, I would maybe try and make it like 2.5D, meaning that like, in the sense that we'd have like maybe, a bunch of huge matte paintings or something like that, but in varying kind of Z planes. So that we have like basically like a natural parallax effect and all this other stuff, so that we're not actually confined to working in 2 dimensions, because that can be a little bit difficult even if your final game is supposed to be 3D. But anyway, we'll see. I don't want to talk too much. Let's get into it and let's take a look. And I mean, this is so live that I need to actually hit this button to transition to my screen. So let me know first of all what you think of this little like face cam, because I can get rid of that, I can move it. If it's covering important information, I might move it. This is literally being recorded like in OBS. I'm not recording into the camera and then editing later, so it's all very much live and like a live stream, which is part of the reason why it's so, I don't know, I'm enjoying myself so far. Let's dive into this and take a look at what we have. Now, also, it's worth noting that I'm not going to be recording things. I'm not going to be zooming in and out of things. So really the best way to watch this is going to be full screen. When I'm editing code in Visual Studio, I'll try and zoom in as much as possible so you can actually see the code. But things like this, if you can't read this, then please zoom in or watch on a computer or something like that, because this is meant to be obviously a view of me developing this. And it's not really realistic for me to be zooming in all the time. Okay, so first of all, let's hide the hidden items because I don't want to see them. I've basically reverted everything I did in the little tile-based game adventure that we were working on. Now, I think most of the stuff is committed. This is Fork. This is my favorite Git client. I think recently it became paid. It's like $50 or something now. It used to be free. I have not paid for it. I've still got a version that I guess you don't need to pay for. But to be honest, I probably would pay for it. And just to be clear, this is not sponsored or anything. But it's just a really good... Sorry, I just had to sneeze there. I'll edit that out, probably. Fork is a very good Git client. I really like it. I think that it's just really nice. And it has a dark mode for those of you who are obsessed with that kind of stuff. Okay, so this is basically, I think, where we were up to. But then, no, it's not. My last commit is all the way down here. And you guys can't really see the authors here. But that's okay. It's not really necessary to see them, I think. Or maybe I can get around my face cam by doing this. Anyway, so these are all the different commits that have gone in, and that's obviously thanks a lot to lovely Santa, because he is a Hazel contributor, as I've marked him on my Discord server. I don't actually know him, but he's done a lot of really good work, so shout out to lovely Santa for helping out with Hazel. He's been merging in various pull requests, and I've basically given him access and permission to do stuff like that. So a lot of stuff has gone in here. I'm not exactly going to go through all of these commits. I think I might do that, and if you guys want to see that in a video, I guess I will show that. I guess I should show that. But looking through all of this stuff, there has been a lot of changes. I wanted to focus on one of them, which I think was specifically the branching instead of indexing the texture sampler. So as far as I'm aware, what we were doing before, which was basically we had a texture index, which used to be, and you guys might really have to zoom in here, but we had a texture index that we were passing in, which was a float. We were casting it to an int here and using it as an index into this sampler 2D array called uTextures inside our fragment shader to actually sample from the appropriate texture based on what texture the quad wanted to use. This does not work on all GPUs and all drivers. As far as I'm concerned, it works fine with NVIDIA, but I think people were saying that for AMD cards, it does not work. Now, I don't have any AMD hardware, like graphics cards. I mean, I've got an AMD CPU, but I've got no AMD graphics cards in my house. So not because I hate them, just to be clear, but I just don't have them. So because of that, I have no way of testing this, but people have told me that it doesn't compile. So we've switched it to this, which is, I think in Sparky, That's what I did in, I think, OpenGL ES, because Sparky was a game engine I made in the past that ran on Android. And because it ran on Android, I think I had to do something like this. So this is my preferred strategy for dealing with this. Yes, it looks a little bit disgusting, but I mean, apparently this is what needs to happen. We have to basically switch on vtext index and then, manually put this stuff in, which is probably not like the best thing in the world, but that's just a change that I wanted to kind of, shout out, I guess, and just bring to your attention. Yeah. So core has been renamed to base. I'm not sure why. It's called base in Hazel Dev, I believe, for no particular reason, just because they're different code bases. But anyway, so basically my point is there's a lot of really helpful stuff going on in GitHub on the repository. So thank you to everyone who's contributing. The engine is obviously better because of the community. So I just wanted to kind of thank you guys for that. Let's open up Hazel and talk about what we're going to do today. So what I want to do today is I basically want to begin this editor workflow. Now, the reason is our major kind of goals are going to be to put in an entity component system, set up a scene system, set up a serialization system, set up a bunch of components, and then connect up C#. That is basically what we need to do. And for that to happen, it would be very useful to have less temporary UI than we have right now. Because at the moment, our user interface is very much just floating windows everywhere. And when we want something, we just bring up an IMGUI window like this called settings. And it's very temporary, and we'll have to rewrite it anyway when we make more of an editor. So I figured, why not move into an editor like now? Why not kind of do that first? And then when we actually, for example, start to work on the entity component system and we want to see all of the entities that are in the scene, all of the components attached to a certain entity, we'll just be able to make the UI for that like be more permanent, because that's part of the editor. So that's my thought process here. And that's ultimately what I want to do. So to set that up, what we need to do is we need to transition to an IMGUI Dockspace. So IMGUI has, and this doesn't even build. So it's because I reverted some code. Subtexture 2D doesn't exist. I'm pretty sure I pushed that. Anyway, let's run this again. So this is what I mean. Like, this is completely live, and you get to watch me fix problems. So, and one thing that I didn't mention, let me switch this to full screen. One of the things that I didn't mention that I really want to mention was feedback, right? So this is the first episode of a new format. Please let me know what you think of this by the end of this episode. If you don't like it, let me know. If you like it, let me know. Obviously, this series is ultimately made for you. So if there's something you want me to change, then I would really appreciate you telling me. Because the other thing is, like, a while ago we tried a different format where I think I just basically wrote the code offline and then I showed the diff of what I'd done and I walked through that. People did not like that whatsoever. And I think within 2 or 3 episodes, we went back to writing all of the code live. So, I do care what you think, and I would like to know, in general, if you're happy with this format, if you think it's better but not quite there yet, just let me know and I will fix it up. Okay, so let's try and compile this code. That's going to be our goal for today. Okay, that was quick. So now we have this stuff up and running, and I'm going to be looking over here on my other monitor sometimes just to make sure the face cam's not in the way. And yeah, regarding the face cam, let me know. I'm happy to get rid of it. But I guess this builds more of a connection, and sometimes when I'm talking and not actually doing anything, it probably is better. Anyway, so we have floating windows, which is good. Floating windows means that we can render IMGUI windows outside of the main area. So in other words, this actually creates like a new window on the fly and renders stuff into there. That's really good. That means that we're obviously using the IMGUI docking branch because that's something that exists there. Now, that should mean that if we look at IMGUI demo, this actually should have, and this is a very good file to consult when you're working with IMGUI, because this has basically this is like a full test suite for IMGUI. Everything that IMGUI is capable of, this should basically support. So what that means is that, and it's very easy to deal with, all you really have to do is say IMGUI show demo window. If you want to, if you actually want to look at something. So I'll just, say show equals true. and put show into this. And then if we run this, then we should be able to see the show demo window. And I'm bringing that up on purpose for something, as you'll see in a minute. If I click on examples and Dockspace, this is what I'm interested in. So this is the IMGUI Dockspace. And you can see that it's really been here all along. This IMGUI Dockspace, you can see, first of all, our scene has completely disappeared. Okay, that's step one, because IMGUI has taken over our entire window. Step two is if I drag windows around, we have these wonderful docking indicators here that let us dock this. What that means is I can easily dock this into here. I can take this settings window. This actually isn't part of the dock space, so I can't do anything with this, but that's okay. If I spawn like another window, I think I can see I can put this like over here or over here, and you can see pretty quickly here that what I'm actually doing is, let's go console, is I'm actually setting up basically a tool here that could be like a level editor. We've got like, you know, this example over here. We've got this DIMGUI demo panel over here. You know, I can spawn, I think you guys get the point, but I'll show you one more thing. I don't know if simple overlay is what I necessarily wanted to do. I think I just ruined everything. Right click to change position. Close. That's what position I want. Not present. Okay, and I opened it again. What is wrong with me? Okay. Main menu bar, and you can see we have file and open, and I mean we quit, which doesn't do anything luckily. You know, we have like this whole, there's a property editor example here where this is very similar to the property grid that I kind of designed, I guess, in like for Hazel Dev. You basically see the point. Like we have something that more or less could be a tool. So we need to transition Hazel in the current format to using basically this kind of view. Now, it's not very hard to do, but it is something that I haven't done in like probably over a year, because that's when I did it to Hazel Dev. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually show this demo. We're going to go to this demo window, and then in here, I guess I'm just going to search for Dockspace. So show example app Dockspace. So this is kind of what I want. This should be more or less self-contained. So I can literally copy this, hopefully. And we can analyze this code, because this is the example code. We're going to kind of analyze this code and figure out how we can put it in here. Now, obviously, right now we're inside Sandbox. Just to be clear, Sandbox is intended to be the runtime. This is not intended to be like the editor tool. We're going to make another tool called Hazelnut. I don't know if I'm actually going to keep that name. Maybe we'll just call it Hazel Editor or something a little bit more like that. But in the dev branch, I've got Hazelnut, which is like the Hazel editor, and then Hazel is obviously the runtime, and then, you know, it's like the Sandbox project is the runtime. But what we're ultimately going to do is create a new project called Hazelnut. I don't want to do that today. I'll probably do that next time, because right now my priority is just to set up this Dockspace. So that being said, what I want to do is probably paste that code in like here to begin with. Let's see if we get any errors. So open, we get open as an error. But I think, no, we've got a few other errors. Help marker, we don't need the help marker. Show docking disabled message, we don't need, because docking will not be disabled. Because we'll start that up as part of the IMGUI state. And then finally, docking being open. I mean, I don't know what I did for Hazel Dev, but I'm sure this could probably just be like true or something. I mean, we need to pass in an actual opt full screen persistent. So opt full screen. I'm not sure exactly what this is. Again, we'll have to like look at this in more detail, but doc space open, I'll set to true. And then this will be something that I pass in here. So now we've got a few other things here. So close Dockspace, it sets Dockspace open to false, which could be like a cool thing to do. What's Dockspace open? That's that. Why are we dereferencing that though? What used to happen here? Dockspace open used to be used to be p open, and what p open used to be p open was a bool that we passed in. I see. Okay, so now that this has changed, let's see, enabled will always be enabled, and then we can just say Dockspace open is false. All right, so if we launch this now, then we should probably just see the Dockspace, and we do, right? So we've lost our scene, which is good. Now we can't dock this settings panel. Why is that? So we need to talk about that. So as far as I'm concerned, in order to be able to dock things, I think we need to, so this is a I'm going to begin Dockspace demo. I think we need to, we basically need to, I don't think they, okay, here's a little test, I guess. I'm fairly sure that maybe all the windows that we create have to be inside the dock space, but I'm not really sure if that's the case. But maybe it is. Yeah, I think it is. So this window settings now, we've basically moved it to be before the dock space ends, which is this end. This is the end for the dock space. So what that means is that this window now, you can see if I drag it around, it's dockable. So I can just put it here and it's now part of this. I can put it, make it full screen like this. I can put it on the top. I can do whatever I want with it because it's now kind of a dockable panel. So that's an important thing to do. And obviously we can still kind of just pull that out and put it into like somewhere else, put onto like our other monitor if we're dealing with a multiple monitor setup. So it's really useful and obviously kind of what we expect. And if we hit close dock space, okay, that didn't really work. I thought that would work. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We're not gonna have a button called close dock space. And we're not gonna, to be honest, we're not gonna have like this whole like begin menu bar, end menu bar. We're not actually gonna have this here. We can probably begin a menu called file and then have like one menu item here called like quit or exit or something like that. And then, okay, let's see. Menu item exit. Okay, no shortcut selected. So what is this? We don't really need anything. We can just write exit, I guess. And then if it's pressed, we can just, you know, how do we, okay, I don't think we can actually close Hazel at the moment cleanly. Because what happens is application, we have a running basically. On window close, that's running to false. So what we could do is application like shut down or application close. Let's just add that in right now, why not? So void close. So this will shut down a Hazel application. I don't want to call it shutdown because shutdown sounds very serious, and it sounds like, it basically just sounds like a system shutdown or something, whereas close is like the user wants to close it. That's how I see that at least. So now what we should be able to do is on exit, we can just do application get dot close. All right. And then this will obviously be Hazel. We won't have to deal with this Hazel namespace everywhere because hazelnut or the editor will be part of the Hazel namespace. So I'm not too worried about that. This is just me checking to see if this will work just for fun, really. So now we have a file menu and we have an exit button and we can press the exit button. Okay, fantastic. The other thing I wanted to briefly talk about was the font. I don't think we're gonna spend too much time on that now. But this default IamGUI theme and IamGUI font, I'm not the biggest fan of, so I will be changing that to something that doesn't look like a monos-based font, just because like there's no need for it to look like this. And I'm just not the biggest fan of this. Yeah, probably something we can talk about next time. Okay, so now that we've done that, the next big stage in this whole kind of I guess Dockspace thing is we want to be able to create a viewport, and that viewport needs to be able to basically we need to render our scene to that viewport, and then that viewport itself is going to be an IamGUI window that we can then put in. Now to do something like that, we basically do need to extend the renderer a little bit, I think, because we don't support frame buffers at the moment. The idea is, and this is how viewports work in IamGUI, well, not really in IamGUI, in anything really. What we want to do is render our entire scene into a frame buffer and thus into a texture. And then once we have that texture, we can use IamGUI's image view to actually render that. So as an example, because I know we have textures like checkerboard texture, for example, we can actually, as part of this, I think we can just do IamGUI image, and then we need a user texture ID. So we can say, what's the renderer? How do we get the render ID from a texture? Is that something that our API doesn't support? Because it should. No, it doesn't. Okay, let's add something. We'll have it as a uint32t for now, but it's probably worth creating maybe a, like, you know, some kind of renderer ID typedef or like a using that basically will, well, maybe not a using, but maybe some kind of struct that basically will contain the renderer ID no matter what rendering API we're dealing with. But basically get renderer ID here, and it'll be virtual obviously. So this function, if we go into texture, GL texture, and we only have the 2D one, then this will be override. This will return mRenderer ID. So now we can just do get renderer ID, and then for the size, what size should we use? vec2. Let's do like 64 by 64 or something. That might be a little slow. I mean, a little small. This is incompatible with ImTextureID. That's fine. What is ImTextureID? ImTextureID is a void pointer. Okay, that's fine. That's just because ImGUI also supports various APIs. So we can just say uint32t texture ID. And this texture ID, so it wants a void pointer. Now I'm fairly sure that what it actually wants is that. It does not want us to give it like the memory address of this or something like that. So if we run this, we should hopefully be able to see our checkerboard texture as part of our like settings panel, I guess. And there it is. So there's that checkerboard texture. We were drawing it quite small. Let's just do to like 256 or something so that you can see it better. But basically, that's the idea, right? So what we want to do is we want to draw this, but this is going to be our scene view. So this is going to be our scene. It's not going to be a checkerboard texture. It's going to be our scene, and we're going to draw it in its own panel. And the size also is going to be dependent on the size of the panel. So that's a few things that we need to set up, but I think I will leave that for next time. So to summarize, and I will be pushing all of this code, of course, to GitHub, what we've done is we've set up a Dockspace, and our plan right now is to set up like an editor, I guess, workflow. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to probably construct like a frame buffer class, and we're going to once we have a frame buffer class, we're going to have a texture attachment onto that frame buffer, which we could then take and then use as that kind of ImGUI image that we can render as part of like a panel. So that is the plan. Now, regarding as well these videos, one more thing that I wanted to add was I do still want to keep them fairly like, I guess, based on a particular topic. So every video should be based on like 1 or 2 topics. It shouldn't be like, you know, a video that's 40 minutes long in which we do 5 completely different things. So I do still want to split up the videos based on what they're about. So this was kind of about the ImGUI Dockspace, but then the next video will probably be about creating frame buffers. And then the video after that will be about, you know, basically creating that ImGUI viewport now that we have a frame buffer class set up and all of that stuff, just so that people can obviously find what they're looking for and they don't need to like, you know, we can keep the videos more bite-sized and more kind of, I guess, tailored to specific features that we add into Hazel. So that does not mean that I'm definitely going to stick to like 1 video per week schedule. If it's a smaller video like this one, I will probably release another one fairly soon, because at the moment, as I mentioned, my priority is to get this working as soon as possible. So hopefully I will have time to make more of these throughout the week instead of just the one kind of every Thursday as I've been doing. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Don't forget that you can help support Hazel Dev, everything that I'm doing here on YouTube by going to patreon.com/the Cherno. You'll get access to live streams, which look basically exactly the same as this, except it's more or less me working on Hazel Dev, the 3D version, and obviously it's live streams, so I'm interacting with chat and all of that stuff. And you'll also get access to the Hazel Dev code, where I have basically built like a 3D version of Hazel with like a level editor, and it's a lot more advanced than this, and you can take a look at that, and obviously that will help support this series as well. Thank you all for watching. I enjoyed this. I will see you next time. Goodbye.